All right, looks like we still have people trickling in, so as usual, we'll go ahead and wait a minute to get started. But as always, Jeff McCartney's here with me today, and he will be there to answer scene in random directions, all the different areas. And when these rays come into contact with either a material or an environment, it's going to collect information about that material, its color, whether it's reflective, whether it's refractive, all sorts of information, and then it's going to return that back to that individual pixel. And that's what's going to determine its final shade. So if you set your samples to 16 as they're set here, essentially for every single pixel in this image, it's going to send out 16 rays just like this. And we have an image that is 1281 by 637, so you multiply those two. So if we do 1281 times 637, we have a total of 815,997 pixels in our image. So for every single one of those pixels, 16 rays are going to be shot out. So you can see there's a lot of calculation that goes into this when you're increasing the samples number. So if you multiply that times 16, these are how many calculations we have with just one ray bounce for that entire image. Okay, so if you decide to up that to 32 samples, then you get even more rays. Okay, so it's going to collect even more information about this pixel surrounding environment. And if you go to 64, you get even more. Okay, so what are samples good for? Let's go back to our scene here, and we'll take a look at something. I'm just going to go ahead and import a simple sphere. And let me just snap this to the ground. And we'll duplicate this and move it. And we'll duplicate it one more time and move that. And I'll go ahead and just hide these other objects in the scene. And let's take a look at samples in action and when you might actually want to increase those. So what I'll do is I'll just make these a metal material. And let's just get rid of the color. So we'll just have something like a chrome. Okay. And I'll copy this and paste it. And then I'll just unlink these two because we'll set some different values on each one of these. So samples are going to come into play when you have rough materials. So if you have a plastic that has roughness or if you have metal that has roughness, the samples are going to become more important. You see here how we have these perfectly sharp reflections. Because everything is so sharp and reflective about this, you don't need a whole bunch of rays to come out and sample the environment because it's essentially a straight bounce and then straight back. Okay, so you can get away with lower samples when you have items that are perfectly reflective. If we start to increase the roughness on this, since we do have this roughness, it requires a little bit more samples to actually do that in a quality manner. So let's paste this around. So I'm going to increase the roughness just a little bit more. And I'll unlink these materials. And I'm going to show you samples, how you can set that per material. Because you can't set it in your render settings, but to illustrate this to you in real time, we'll do this per material. So if we look at this material parameters, and we expand this roughness option, we have 9 samples set on this material right now. So for the very first sphere, let's go ahead and set that to something really low, like 3. Okay. And on the next sphere, let's go ahead and set that to something higher, like 16.